That is right, ladies and gentlemen. You read the title correctly. Finally, after so long, Venom Snare has finally been nerfed. I don't have to watch people flicking their snot at me anymore and watching it slowly come towards me. As well as Lion's Roar nerfs and many other nerfs and buffs, we're going to go over all of that. But before we get into the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel as we go over some of these buffs and nerfs in action over the next few days, testing everything out. Anyways, let's go ahead and dip our toes into these patch notes because man, there is a lot. They definitely did not hold back with this. So the first big change that was added is actually a function allowing players to carry over their battle flag and marked flag progression when returning to a previously completed battlefield. Which this is absolutely massive. Basically, it makes it so you've already beaten a level. Turning this on will make it so it keeps all of your progress that is completed on that level. So any flag you've raised and shortcuts you've gotten and even your morale rank will save in that area now. So you're free to go back, maybe just get up the extra flags that you possibly have missed. So that's definitely something that I'm gonna be doing. A very welcome change indeed. The way to change this is when you hit your travel on your flag, you click on the mission that you want to go on to that you've already completed. And now, at the very bottom of the screen, it will tell you to press a button. For me, it's triangle on the PS5. And so once that is pressed, you'll see right above the picture here, there's going to be on the left side, it will say play with flag progression retained. Now, you are free to enter that area with your previously beaten morale rank, flags, all that. So this is really good. Next, it actually added in diagrams to learn Wizardry spell screen, set Wizardry spell screen, and then the 5 phases affinities under the tutorial, allowing players to better understand the affinities between each of the 5 phases. So now we have an easy access to the diagram to remember what element is strong against what other element, rather than pulling it on your phone every 5 seconds like I did whenever I was still learning the game. They then added in functions to the online lobby, recruitment, and recruiting allies screen, allowing players to part ways with companions. Basically, now whenever you go into the online lobby tab on your battle flag, you can now hit triangle on the PS5 and part ways with your companion, which is really nice rather than just sitting there and having to pop that willow branch in your inventory. Next, they made upwards adjustments to the shrinking of spirit gauges, lower limits, and then downward adjustment to the spirit damage dealt upon successfully performing a deflect. Meaning, whenever you're fighting an enemy, every time you hit them and hit them with unblockable attacks, their spirit gauge shrinks. So now it shrinks even more when they are attacked, but now with deflecting, it doesn't reduce the regular amount of spirit that is normally lost whenever they swing or, you deflect. So now every time you deflect, they aren't losing as much of their spirit. So you win some, you lose some, but still a very good change. They then added in a bunch of weapon optimization, but for all the weapons, they optimized the timing at which players can activate deflect to cancel the recovery sequence after attacks, which is very nice to be able to deflect faster after attacking rather than being stuck in those long animations. It also increases the spirit damage dealt with spirit attacks, more spirit damage, that's always nice. And then they decrease the boost in spirit attack power when your spirit is high. Then of course all these weapons on screen now got some individual changes for them that I'll just scroll by slowly so you can pause and see which ones you're interested in. Just mainly basically balance adjustments, changes, and buffs to a few weapons. It's actually really nice to see them put this much effort into this. Next up, we got some martial art changes, and for all of them, they do more spirit damage, which is great. I personally thought the damage themselves on most martial arts are way lacking and thought they'd maybe get a damage buff, but having that higher spirit damage to knock people out of spirit and critical strike them is very nice still, I will give them that. And then of course, once again, a bunch of individual changes to each of the martial arts. I'll slowly go through them all, just so if there's any you guys see out there that you're interested in, you can pause it, see which one there are, and man, there's so many of them that I couldn't go through all of them. Next up, we got some Wizardry spell changes, which I absolutely love to see. Most are just like a reduced spirit cost consumption, which are still beautiful, a few attack speed increases on the moves, and there's some ailment accumulation increases, just overall good things. But the big one is going to be the VENOM SNARE changes. But basically it made changes so that the spell effect does not manifest if the projectile is successfully deflected, which this was my biggest problem with this spell. I'd be in a situation where I can't do anything but deflect it, and I'd still get hit with it, so thank God for this change. The other change is it increases the toxin accumulation when landing hits, which that's fine, just builds up poison faster. The other one is extended intervals between the moment when damage is received over time, so if you get hit by it, it will now do ticks less often, so less damage overall. Awesome. And then it reduces toxin damage so it doesn't hit as hard. These are all great changes. I don't think it's going to kill the spell like some people might think. It's just balancing to bring it down to all the others' levels. So amazing changes. Thank you so much. For some of the bosses, they actually made changes to them as well. So to Zhang Reng, Tao Ti, Demonize Xiao Dun, Demonize Lubu, Yun Liang and Wen Chu, Demonize Yan Xiao, Yu Ji, and finally Embodiment of the Demonic Key. All of them got adjustments, being buffs or nerfs or new attacks altogether, so the boss fights for these are actually going to be a little bit different than you remember them. Then they made some other changes like revise the conditions for online matchmaking and improve certain conditions that made it difficult to match. So I guess they're making it easier to be able to matchmake now. Not sure if this is a reference to PvP invasions, matchmaking, or like PvE co-op with randoms type of matchmaking, but regardless, easier matchmaking is great to see. They also improved action synchronization in environments with significant online delays. So like when you're going through a level with friends and the enemies start desyncing all around the place, this should hopefully fix or at least help with this. Then for a bunch of major bug fixes for certain things, but the big one that I saw is that they fixed a bug in which players granted the positive effect of Lion's Roar from the Wizardry spell Lion's Roar were rendered impervious to damage from fatal strikes. This means Lion's Roar can no longer be used as a protection from fatal strikes anymore. The community was speculating, saying that this was either a bug or it was intended, but basically it just made it so in PvP if someone critical striked you, it did 0 damage whatsoever. I personally knew that this was a bug because why wouldn't they say it? Why would they just do this and not add it in the description? But a part of me did hope it was still intended, or at least didn't get nerfed, just because I like the idea of it for PvP. I don't personally use it too much myself, but having it as something to look out for on your opponent and try to counter it is a bit actually pretty fun. But regardless, it was a bug and needed to be patched, so still a crazy change, and I wonder how this will actually affect some of the players' builds now. But that is pretty much going to do it for all the rest of the patch notes. I'll scroll through the last few things here so that you can see everything, but I'll leave the link to the website in the description down below in case you want to check out some of these things for yourself and read through everything more thoroughly. But I hope you all enjoyed going over all these patch notes with me. Be sure to stick around as we go over some of the changes individually in game to see how some of these martial arts and the spells do now. But I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and have a good one. Peace.